Okay, so it's cliche to say that society is polarized right now, but what does it mean? Like a good philosopher, I will ask my definitions. And like Frank Freddy earlier, I wouldn't say that the opposite of the polarized society is a unified one, and that's not what. If we're trying to get rid of polarization, it doesn't mean that we're all looking for agreement or even civility, actually, and there can still be huge ideological differences. So, as I understand polarization, it's where a range of political positions start to cluster almost artificially around poles, and people on either pole start to build those positions into their identity. Now, that can happen for benign reasons, because you could say, well, okay, the reason that people on the right, for instance, tend to have a certain position on Israel, a certain position on abortion, a certain position on trans rights or whatever it is because of the fundamental underlying principles, be it freedom or whatever it is in that case. And same on the left, you could say that. And I think there is some of that going on. So there's sort of a natural polarization in the sense that if you've got an underlying set of political principles, it will dictate which position and which stance you take on substantive moral and ethical matters. However, as my fellow speaker has just said, it's not just that that's going on, is it? It's basically we're in a position where we work out what the opponent thinks, and we say, right, well, I'm on the other side, I'm on the opposite, I'm not with you. And so there's a kind of reactive element in there that's not stemming from something positive, it's coming from a rejection of the enemy. And I've seen that, to be sort of self-deprecating and not say it's all the other side's fault, I've seen that going on in my side of the fence recently, in the so-called gender-critical, sex realist, whatever you want to call it, position, where, so the process used to go, okay, I start with trans activism, I'm definitely not with you on this issue, I definitely think that women have rights, I definitely think it should be medicalized. Okay, well, so you're an idiot. Now, what do you think about Israel, Gaza? Right, well, whatever you think, I'm going to think the opposite. Now, what do you think about this? Right, but if you think that, then it must be the opposite. So he basically builds up your position through reaction. And that's happening on the right as well. And I fully understand the dynamic. I really have to overcome my visceral dislike of some people on the left these days for what they have done to me and the way that they talk. And they make it even more annoying because, of course, they act as if the problem is all on the right and that they never do these things. And that polarization is just a product of demagogues talking down to gullible fools in the electorate. And that if it wasn't for those nasty populists, these people wouldn't be whipped up like this and unable to see that whatever vices are involved, it's across the population, both sides are equally involved, and it involves stereotyping your opponent, building mythological paths for yourself and mythological paths for them, and generally just engaging in the propaganda that we're all familiar with when you've got an enemy that you need to beat. So that's, as I understand it, the problem of polarization. It's not just a difference in ideas that naturally falls out of political positions. It's a reaction against people you hate, and it's about people, not positions all of a sudden, personality types. And it's not just happening in the left and the right. There's also, even within the left, there's huge polarization between the far left and the center left, not just in terms of their ideas, but in fact, the fact that they hate each other. And probably on the right too, and if it's not there now, it will be soon. So why that's bad, it's not because, this is maybe the kumbaya session, but from my perspective, it's not because there's something sort of morally gone wrong here, although there probably has. It's because it's making us all stupider. It's making us all less effective. It's making politics fuck up, basically. It makes people unable to compromise with the enemy, because their own side will turn on them and say that you're a capitulator, rather than just think, hands across the aisle, we're collaborating strategically for some shared end. We don't have, we're not committed to working together forever. There's no changes of mind allowed in public anymore. You're not allowed to say, I've thought about this and I've changed my mind, because immediately people will fall on you saying, what are you saying? Who are you with? Are you with them or are you with us? And so there's no self-reflection. There's incredible smuggery and grandiosity on both sides as you desperately try to drown out the voices of self-doubt and project all your animosity onto your enemy, your political enemy. And it means that when this is in full flow, you're removed from reality, basically. You're unable to see the shared interests that you might have on a particular issue, or the way that your enemy might have a point for a limited purpose, that they may have seen something that you haven't seen. And also, it quite obviously it's a dynamic that will self-perpetuate, because the more you demonize your opponent, the more irritated and resentful they become, and the more that they demonize you back. So my pitch is not the sort of let's all be friends. My pitch is that this is a really profoundly stupid way of doing politics, and it's snarling everything up. So we need to find a way somehow to move away from these kind of stereotypes of our opponents and introduce some more charity for the purposes of better politics.